Hi, welcome to this short talk. Again, my name is Evan Buxton from Neoscape. We're a creative agency headquartered in Boston, Mass. We do a lot of real estate marketing and always trying to find tools that we can use to both help ourselves and usually and eventually help our clients. My talk is called Off the Grid because I want to show you how Grist's relational structure lets us escape that flat spreadsheet and build dynamic dashboards that are, can be more than what you can build within Grist itself. The promise here of this talk is that anyone can do this. You just need some AI, the right way to write a prompt, your Grist API key, and GitHub pages. There are many ways to do this. This is the way that I've done it. So here we go. Okay, so we're going to start with the foundation, which is structured data. We're going to look at some basic dashboards. We're going to go through my current AI workflow from prompts to custom widget. We're going to talk about how you can scale up from your initial widget, custom widget, into something much more robust. I'm going to show you some interactive visuals and metrics. This is all static screenshots from my dashboards, and some tips and things to avoid, and then wrap up in Q&A. I actually don't know how much Q&A there'll be, not because I'm going to talk too much, but I hope because there's some great visuals here. All right, so the foundation structured data. Let's start here. So this is what I started with, 3 years ago. It was a very deep spreadsheet in Google, lots of tabs, none of it connected, of course. There were formulas running all over the place here, but nothing was connected, nothing was relational. I did a little bit of research, found Grist, and said, this is exactly, what I need. And this is your launch pad. If you can have at least this starting point, you can bring it over into Grist, which a lot of you probably are. You can turn it into something like this. Now everything is connected. You can tell by my, the icons next to things. Everything here is now connected together. We can update once and then have it spread itself around. We can very easily make dashboards and start to actually analyze the information now instead of having to click through different tabs. So let's see what happens when we turn this into a dashboard. So here we have an example of an HTML, JS, and CSS dashboard I've built using AI. It allows you to just search all of our projects for literally anything and start to get results and dive into the data. We have a lot of people here that aren't as familiar with how to read or use a spreadsheet. So I created this so that they would have an easier time using it more like a website or a front end for the relational database. And again, the tools that Grist provides to make tables are very nice, and dashboards and charts. I wanted more. So here I've typed in the word Halstead, and it's returning all of the Halstead projects. There's probably 1,000 projects in here, roughly. And each one of those cards is clickable, and you can get directly in and dive into more detail. We'll see a little bit more about that in a second. Here's the workflow that I use. So first thing is get your API key. I'm self-hosted, but go to your settings, and then where it says document ID, you want to grab that API key, and that's what you use in your code. Don't ever give that to AI, of course. You put it in after it's done writing the code for you, but that's probably obvious. Just want to make sure that I said that. And here's my actual prompt that I wrote to make what you saw a second ago. So I explained that I have a database in Grist, giving it heads up exactly what I have. I told it what I wanted. I gave it the name of the projects table. I gave it an export of some basic CSV data from the table. It was fake information, but again, it always helps to give it basically your schema, so it knows exactly what you're trying to do. I gave it a screenshot of something that I'd also made before. You don't need to do that though necessarily. And I told it the kind of things that I wanted it to filter for and ways to search. One thing this doesn't show is I always ask it to plan and then ask me questions to make sure it completely understands what I want to build. I don't expect it to one-shot it by just hitting enter and then have it write the code. And then also through experimentation with AI, it was always getting the how to call in the Grist information, the Grist API plugin JavaScript. It was always doing that wrong. I don't know why. So I started to paste in exactly how it should be calling in um, these um, these imports, so it would just not have that wrong. So again, context, table names, examples of data, and then the details, and you'll get a pretty good start. Okay, as you can see here, what happened? It failed. It was working somewhat, but the search didn't work. It auto opened the first project. The filters didn't populate, so there were problems. But it was a good first start. So I started to work with it to explain how to fix it basically, and work through that. And again, it did get there. And then I always ask it. If I don't ask it up front, I always ask it early. I want to make sure everything's broken up into different pieces. The eventuality of this is I'm going to hand it to my development team to do a good job of translating it into something that can be like production ready. This is fine for me to get like an MVP, a proof of concept of what I want. I'm lucky enough to have a development team that builds websites for a living, so they can take this and make it into something even better. But I want to break it up into modular pieces. You don't want to hand your development team a monolithic, HTML file that has all of the JavaScript in there, all of the CSS. That makes everyone unhappy. So ask it to break it up into the component parts. You'll end up with maybe 6 JavaScript files, 1 CSS, and 1 index that's very small. It just imports in everything. That'll make your team happy. You also don't have to worry about that necessarily. If you just want to roll with the giant index, you can. If you start to refine it and add it, AI has a limited context. It's better to have it just working with smaller pieces. Okay, so once you have your HTML, which you can run locally, just kind of double click on it, it won't actually show you any Grist information because there is no connection to Grist running it locally. However, you can at least see that it worked, and you can see the formatting, and it'll say something like failure to connect to Grist, but everything else will be there, and you'll know you're in a good spot. Now you just have to host it on GitHub Pages or some other place that you can get to. You basically want an HTML link to somewhere. I use GitHub Pages because I already have a GitHub account. And again, I'm kind of temporarily staging this before I give it to the development team to put it in our sandbox and make it, proper. I'm not going to read through those steps, but it is all there. And again, you can just Google that. I'd never used GitHub Pages before. I use GitHub all the time for writing code, but never using Pages. But it's very simple. There's a lot of steps there, but it's not bad. Okay, so we're back to now. We can scale this dashboard up. I got the connections working, the table's being read, the data is real, Grist is happy. Now what? What else can I do? So again, continuing to work with AI, I added more features. So now when you click on one of those cards, it pops up selected information that I want to show. We have much more information for all of these projects, but for the most part, people just want to know who the salesperson was, who the project manager was, the year, things like that. They also want to know if there's any links here. So in this example, that link is directly to the website that we made. Other cards will have links to the Panda doc where we wrote the proposal. They'll have links to HubSpot where we, the inbound came in. We'll also have links to the marketing drive. So if someone says this is the exact project I need to show to sell another job, they can click that link and open up the marketing drive directly to the case study. Maybe there's 10 images in there. Maybe there's a film. It can open up whatever we need just by adding those links in. And then there's an example of the working filtering again, which it didn't have working right away, but it does work now. So this has been great, for the company. We create so much stuff, and it's hard to find it all. And this relational database and this dashboard kind of on top has really helped us, and it's widened the use. So people that are, afraid, if you will, of these spreadsheets that are super powered can use this to get what they need. So tables are good, dashboards are better. Clean visuals are where insights can jump out. So again, a lot of data being produced here at Neoscape. We're digging into all of that data and kind of trying to separate the silos, bring everything together in one dashboard. Here's another example of that. So we wanted to dive into people that were doing non-project things, exactly what they were doing. So again, I used N8N to automate extracting data from Clockify, dumping it into Grist, and now anyone can come here and through various filtering, they can see what people are doing. So right now you're looking at everything, for example, but I can pick myself as a person. It'll filter just my information. I can click on any one of these blue bars, and then below it'll list every entry in my timesheet, including what I wrote for, exactly what it was. So the category for what I have done, might be, I don't know, worked on Grist, right? But I can now type in exactly what it is. So we can now, refine and kind of investigate where all of that extra time is going for everyone. And again, not to like, narc on people. We just want to know where that time is going so we can investigate how, like, for instance, there's a lot of meetings we have. Is it too many meetings? Are we having too many people in those meetings? Are people putting time on their timesheet for meetings when they should be doing, production work? It's been very helpful for that. And then the next slide is utilization, which again, we can see and track, trends across quarters, years, et cetera, for people, for teams. And again, I just used AI to build this. I gave it some example data, told it that I wanted a trend line. I wanted to be able to search by quarter, by team, by person. I worked with the rest of the company to add in things that they wanted. I usually build things for myself, and then, of course, widen it to other people in the company to see what they want as well. So you can see here we've got green is where I actually forgot, what does that say? I can't remember. It's too small. Billable is green and non-billable is orange, and the red line is the trend line. That's where they should be. Sorry, that's their target. Some of this data has been, of course, made up for this meeting here. Again, this makes data less intimidating for non-technical teammates. They don't see tables, they see stories. I'm questioning my writing there on that line. I'm reading notes. I do think, though, that I know for a fact it's helped people. Some people just can't work with tables. They can't work with spreadsheets. This makes it easier for them. Okay, so practical tips and pitfalls. Number one, again, keep your API keys safe. Don't paste that into AI tools. You want to store that in environment variables. If self-hosting, it doesn't matter if you don't know what that is. Just don't paste anything like that into AI. No private data as well. Create some very simple dummy information. It doesn't matter. You just want it to build the right connections to things. You can always change the information later. Prompt like an engineer. Again, that's more of you learn how to talk to these things. If you have any programming background at all, you probably already know how to talk to these things, but be explicit, bring your data, tell it what you want, and be very explicit, and it'll usually do a pretty good job. They're getting very, very good. You want to start small, get the most simple connection going. That way you know it's working, right? And then just keep iterating and back everything up. Again, that iteration, your first output will not be great probably, but it is like anything else. The more practice, the better you'll get, and you'll start going crazy with dashboards. Know when to stop. You don't have to overthink it. Again, Grist provides a lot of value already. I had some things that I wanted to do that I couldn't find a way to do with what was existing, but they're always adding things as well. So again, don't overbuild. Use what they provide. It's really good. Sometimes, though, you might need to go over. Bonus tip. This might be an Evan problem, not a Grist problem, but caching and make it seem like your changes do not work. So you'll dump up, your new information to GitHub pages and refresh and nothing happens, or it doesn't seem like it's coming through. But if you just add a parameter to the end of your HTML within Grist, like again, you see here, question mark version equals 27 or maybe 28, 29, that'll force it to pull a fresh copy, and then you will see your changes. That was very frustrating for a while. I didn't understand. It seemed like it was working, but it wasn't. Is that? Oh, so adding, HTML as GitHub page using a custom widget. Again, you can look at this, but the big thing is this guy here. When you add your custom widget, the first arrow is where you paste that URL, and that's also where you would type, question mark v equals 28 if you're not seeing that refresh. And then you want to make sure that you give it a full document access so it can see everything. And that's really all you have to do to get those pages to work. And hopefully you can start to see some really great dashboards. The design team here at Neoscape has not touched those. All of that, if you want to call it design, it's basically material design from Google. That's just what it invented for me, just to make it look, I guess, organized. Eventually, we will have the design team take over and tweak it to make it look a little nicer. I'm going to give them that option. Maybe it stays the same. And as I said, these GitHub pages will be given to the development team. They can write new stuff. They can tweak what the AI wrote, whatever they want to do. And again, it might even stay just as it is. All right, I finished earlier than I thought, probably because I just never stopped talking. Nick, do you think it's okay for some questions?
Yes, more than okay. I think there was one by Omniraptor, but you kind of answered it. He was just asking if v equals 27 was some magic number or just it's any number, right?
Correct. Yes. I have some of these that are as high as 100 because I keep, iterating, and I started at v equals 1. You also don't have to go in order. Sometimes I'll do 59 and then 28. It works every time, no matter what you type. I do try to increment though, but sometimes when I'm frustrated, I'll type in 1,000 just because I want to force it. I've also, by the way, I learned something through the AI, which is something I say every day. I did not realize this in the imports of your HTML where you import in your scripts. You can write that question mark v equals 27 in there instead of having to do what I just mentioned to you. So now, because I'm always iterating myself on how I talk to the AI, I tell it to build in that like cache busting into the HTML. So every time it rewrites something for me, it'll update the HTML to say v28, v29, whatever, and then I don't have to do that. So that is something within the last 2 weeks I've learned. I didn't know you could do that, and I do it now. I'm looking at the chat here. No magic number. Maybe there is. It's a good question. I was going to talk to my DevOps guy and see if he could also change something on our server um, to just not have that be a problem. Maybe I have to update the HT access also. Maybe there's something there that would eliminate that. One of those small problems that when you desperately want to see if your dashboard has been updated and doing the new cool thing, it's just a small little frustration that maybe there is a way to get rid of it. If there aren't any more questions, and according to whatever Nick would like to do, we could give people some time back.
I was just looking through your talk. Did you mention what models you use?
I did not. I love Claude for Grist writing as well as N8N writing. ChatGPT I use occasionally. It's still very good, but I feel like Claude does a better job. CLAUD of writing code, and maybe the way I talk to it and it understands me, I think a little better. But a lot of Gemini's great too. We have that in the or Google Shop as far as like mail and docs and sheets and all that. So the fact that Gemini is just included is extremely dangerous in a good way. But I still like Claude.
Cool. I think I see someone typing. See if there's any more questions.
I like Omniraptor's handle as well.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. I'm gonna copy that. Thank you. Yeah, that would be great. And we can all learn from that, so you're not frustrated like I get. Thank you for finding that. Another reason to hand it off to the professionals. While I do write code, not like the web team does. So handing that off to them, they likely would fix that all up so it just works, the way it should. You can get very, very far with AI. Yeah, you can engineer almost anything. You just got to know how to ask for
Yes, and we're all learning stuff today, which is great.
it.
Oh, one more question.
No, but, and continue writing, of course, and I'll hopefully answer. The way that they have been created, the Grist connection is the both the least and most important part of it. You could pass in really anything as long as it's structured correctly, and it should still work. Yes, you would need to change Grist imports into something else for the data. I've got a few that if Grist, so great question, I just thought of this. I mentioned when I run these things locally, you don't see that connection to Grist, which is true. However, because I still want to see data, hydrating the screen so I can make sure things are right, that fake CSV data that I told you to make, I have that in the same folder, and the code will default, if it doesn't have the Grist connection, it'll load in the CSV instead. And again, another way to say that you can point that to anything really. If not Grist, point to the CSV, point to a whole other database. I hope that answered.